Nestled between these banks on the River Derwent is the city of Derby. Now, although it's known for famous people like Jack O'Connell and John Hurt, Derby boasts a rich tapestry that weaves even further back in English history. At the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, Derby became a beacon of innovation through the creation of the cotton and silk mills. These mills were the beating heart of the communities, and they played a vital key in showing the world its first factory production systems. But behind the founding fathers lies tales of fraud, espionage, and suspected murder. So this is no ordinary history. Welcome to Derby's Mills, birthplace of the Industrial Revolution. There were many pioneering minds who helped to shape Derby over the centuries, from Peter Nightingale and Jedediah Strutt to Thomas Evans. But there were two influential minds who helped to put Derby on the industrial map. Born to a family of silk and wool weavers, these brothers later went on to found Britain's first silk throwing mill. Let me introduce you to the extraordinary tale of John and Thomas Lomb.
The exciting world of the Industrial Revolution within the mills of Derby changed the way in which we worked, slept and ate. John Lomb and his brother Thomas had huge plans to build the best silk mill the UK had ever seen. But why was this mill so special? Well, you see, England had been producing silk since the 16th century, but it struggled to meet high demands of the material and quality of the perfected Italian silk mills. But, determined to succeed, John thought of a brilliant idea, a daring adventure of questionable legality to Italy. Arriving at one of the best silk mills in Piemonte, he asks for work and manages to convince them to allow him inside. As he continued to work within the mill, his plan to learn the closely guarded secrets of the Italian silk production was in full flow. Once fully integrated, he bribed mill workers to obtain the specific details of the spinning machines that he so desperately needed. Rumour has it, in the dead of night, John would sneak his way back to the mill and break inside, risking his life to successfully create detailed drawings of the machines. Until one night, amidst smuggling the drawings out in bales of silk, he was caught. In fear of his life, John managed to escape and began his voyage back to England armed with the knowledge of the Italian silk-throwing machines. Still in one piece, and one step closer to the dream, the brothers begin to prepare phase 2 of their plan. The pair showcase small models of the machines they planned to build in order to raise funds for their grand factory. But John would never see his passion project finished. Rumours today suggest he could have been poisoned by one of the Italian craftsmen that came to England with him as revenge for his act of stealing. When townsfolk went to test the body for poisoning a year later, his body had mysteriously vanished, leaving the tale forever unsolved and shrouded in the mystery of potential murder. With John gone, Thomas stepped up to complete the mill, and although it's not for certain, somewhere around 1724 was the time that Lomb's Mill, now known as the Museum of Making, became the first factory.
With thanks to the work of the Lomb brothers and the support of local businesses, councils and volunteers, the original building stood proudly for over 300 years. And in 2016, a £17 million redevelopment scheme started with the aim of showcasing the region's innovative history. And in 2021, it reopened with a new name, the Museum of Making. Despite the redevelopment, the Grade 1 listed Bakewell gates, designed by master ironmaker Robert Bakewell, continue to stand guard since 1725. And an important part of the redevelopment is that it had to be built by people and industries of Derby, with the idea and hope that it would inspire visitors to unleash their own creativity and begin making. As believers in innovation, the museum is now the dedicated home of the Institute of STEAM, where new startups and makers can have access to co-working spaces. These spaces continue to support Derby's makers, and over the years, 30,000 collections are now on show, embracing both traditional and contemporary crafts. A wide selection of these creators' products are showcased in the hub and the museum's shop, representing designers and creatives across the region and offering them opportunities to flourish within their businesses. So, as you can see, the work of the Lom brothers all those years ago still thrives here today. But although their work started to shape the way in which production efficiency evolved, they were not the only founders in Derby's history. Our next stop takes us to the village of Cromford, where another visionary figure left an indelible mark on the landscape of the mill industry. Despite his wrongdoings and his shortcomings, Richard Arkwright's creations not only revolutionised the cotton manufacturing, but also took the loosely shaped factory system to the next level. Traditionally, weaving families would live in small cottages, and they'd all work together to create as much yarn as was required. The children would start the process by carding the cotton. That's when you take big fluffy clumps and you spread it out, making sure the fibres are untangled. This would then be taken and spun on a wheel, which would stretch the fibres out even more, twisting them to create a strong, long, thin yarn. The yarn would then be taken and woven on a loom in between long strands of yarn, which would create a crisscross pattern. However, a new invention emerged in 1733 called the flying shuttle, and this made weaving a lot faster, causing considerable problems for the spinners who couldn't keep up. The solution? Arkwright's 1768 spinning frame. Wealthy locals were excited by the idea of growing profits, and they agreed to help Arkwright build a factory so that his spinning frame could be put to work on a grand scale. Now, this is the original factory, but in order to make it a success, Arkwright needed more families to move to Cromford to work for him. In 1776, North Street became the location for the first planned industrial housing, offering a standard of living that most people weren't used to. But Arkwright didn't stop there. He erected the Greyhound Hotel for visitors, the marketplace for shopping, and a community chapel. He also provided a festival each year where workers could parade around the village and then go back to the mill to get beer, nuts, fruit, and buns. Now, all of these successful ventures don't come without consequences. Arkwright employed hundreds of children, some as young as the age of 7, in his factories. And some of their jobs included collecting scraps from under the dangerous machinery, fixing broken threads, or changing spools of yarn. Now, I know it sounds strange to think of children working in factories, but at this time, it was deemed a lot safer job than some of the alternatives, like chimney sweep or working in the mines. Now, big, high-powered mills, just like this one and others, also contributed to the cheap cotton industry. This is where rich mill owners became richer on the suffering of slaves. They were bought and sold like property throughout the world, and they were forced to work in large plantations unpaid, all in order to drive the cost of cotton down. Now, these are the remains of the second mill. When the second mill was installed in 1776, Cromford Mills became a hub of innovation, employing up to 800 people by 1790. Now, this increased workforce obviously increased product output, and that caused problems for transportation. Previously, materials had been couriered by packhorse, but considering the productivity of the mills was so great, an alternative method needed to be found. This 23-kilometre stretch of water beside me is Cromford Canal, and this became the preferred alternative to the slower and busier roads. As goods, transport and communities evolved, the Industrial Revolution gained momentum, and Arkwright embarked on his most ambitious endeavour yet, the creation of his valley's showpiece, Masson Mills. So the vision for Masson Mills was to create a vertically integrated production facility where every aspect of the cotton manufacturing process, from carding to spinning, weaving to finishing, could all be done under one roof. Now, this central hub actually has its original flooring, which is insane. And if you take a look here, you can see how it's warped. And that is from the workers going back and forth, day in, day out, year after year. But by streamlining the various stages of cotton production, Arkwright maximised efficiency and reduced costs, ultimately revolutionising the factory system to the one we know today. Construction was initially met with criticism. Many of the locals complained about the impact on the picturesque scenery, but this did not deter Arkwright's ambition, and he was rewarded with many years of success. After his death in 1792, Arkwright's son started to sell all the mill properties except for two, here and Cromford Mill. Now, some believe it was out of loyalty to his workforce and in memory of his father. So what brought all of these historic mills together? One simple answer: the River Derwent. With key mills dotted along its banks, this 15-mile stretch between Matlock Bath and the city of Derby forms what is known as the Derwent Valley. Also nestled amongst this valley are other key heritage sites, the mills at Darley Abbey and Jedediah Strutt's North Mill. Being the only UNESCO World Heritage Site in the East Midlands, Derwent Valley are determined to preserve these mills. They all played a pivotal role in advancements in technology, trade and social transformation. The Derwent Collection, and more specifically Cromford Mills, the Museum of Making and Masson Mills, all stand testament to John, Thomas and Richard's hard work, as well as a reminder of the transformative power and impact a collective vision can have on shaping an industry and also changing the lives of others. The effects of the Industrial Revolution can still be felt today, with many businesses thriving on the history created here in Derby. The John Smedley Mill, founded in 1784, is a fine gauge knitwear company with a long lineage of local working families over generations, and this level of craftsmanship and experience earned them the Royal Warrant of Appointment from Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II in 2013. Also setting the scene for other types of delicate and fine materials is the Royal Crown Derby. Started in 1750 by artist Andrew Planch, his creative passion led him to crafting and decorating exquisite fine bone china. And with rapid expansion, the company soon gained a reputation for supplying the royal monarchy, and they also supplied RMS Titanic. Now, although Rolls-Royce originated in Manchester, it expanded its operations to Derby in the early 20th century, and it soon became aligned with the city. It played a pivotal role in the modern industrial development of aviation technologies and engine manufacturing. Their engines have powered some of the most iconic aircrafts, continuing to put Derby on the map, this time as a leading centre in aerospace engineering. A humble yet monumental impact on engineering and manufacturing has been felt here for hundreds of years. The river, the land and the locals all coming together to turn small ideas into great big game changers. And we've only looked at a few, but this is the city of Derby, Its community is deeply connected to its history, and it continues to be a culture of innovation for local businesses, creatives, and collaborators, all inspired by the spirit of the Industrial Revolution.